All right, so we're back with the plant master. His phone died. It's funny because I was gonna tell you, right when you're at about 2%, just let me know. We'll end it and we'll just continue for a part two at another time. But since you're
Okay.
back now, we could continue. You were like diving deep about fasting right before we got cut off.
Right. Kind of just about, the similar stories within the story of Christ and the fasting and, how he fasted for 40 days. Uh, 40 being that number of like a completion or moving into something new, like coming out of the wilderness, almost like the end of a probation period or such. But a lot of the fraternities and things we know in like universities, because the first universities were in Kemet or the schools of the learned, which I'm talking about, that had to be initiated or be initiated for 40 days fasting before they could uh, study in these schools. Those frats got the initiation from that idea, except they perverted it because the fasting actually helped you. And although it was a bit vigorous and taxing on the body, which is part of the sacrifice part, but there was a level of healing and intellect and achieving what we would call illumination, or the light coming on, or epiphany, which is kind of lit in the mind once one reaches a certain state of um, cleanliness or emptiness, should I say. And so a lot of the stories in the Bible, whenever somebody was trying to reach God, they always had to fast. And so naturally, I would always try to fast because I wanted to reach God. But as I got more in depth of why we were trying to reach God, then that it made sense that we're trying to reach a higher part of ourselves, which we are, who is called God, in the sense that not uh, like people get offended when I say that, that says we are God or we're gods, but both God and Jesus said this in Scripture, mind you. With it's one time in Psalms and another in the New Testament where he says ye are gods, and another where Jesus says, doesn't it say in your law that ye are gods? So we're both God and Jesus agree that we are gods because we are made in the image of God. But what people seem to not be able to put the puzzle together at is where God is found. And throughout the scriptures, it says time and time again that the kingdom of God is found within, that it's not found with outward observation. Even if somebody tells you, here comes God, or here comes Christ, not to even listen to them. That the only way you can find God is within, or the kingdom is within, and it's to become childlike. And to become childlike is to go back to the natural state of the body or the temple, because when we come in as children, we're pure and clean. We have not yet been defiled by the world. And so to get back to a Christ mind, one has to go back to being as a child, both mentally and physically. And so the transition from a flesh-based meal or a diet to a more spiritual is a story that is played out within our food, but also what the food does to us on a physical and spiritual level. As in, the more you eat of the flesh, the more carnal minded you would be. The more you eat of the spirit, the more you eat correctly for the body, the more you eat things that are going to support breath, because spirit is breath. You know how you eat too much, you can't breathe? It's like, oh, you're suppressing that breath. That breath is the vital source of animation for the body. It's the electricity that makes this body alive, and that uh, electrical wire is only called alive when the electricity is running through it. But when the electricity ceases to run through it, it's just a wire that just lays there. But we call it alive when the electricity runs through the wire as the breath runs through us, the conduit, or the copper, or the whatever you want to call it, the wire that harnesses that energy. So anything that suppresses the breath is what brings on old age, disease, all those things. Because at the end of everything, the foundation is breath. Because without breath, we cease to live altogether. Food doesn't even matter at that point. Nothing's more important than breath. You see, and breath is one of those things that hasn't been talked about a lot within the science community either, and the importance of how breath can even ultimately weaken our immune systems. or damage organs if it's not breathing correctly, or it even shifts our mind into a different place within the two hemispheres of the brain. One being more survival, which is fight or flight. The other being the more creative, which we call the 90%. And so that 90% of the brain would be the feminine side. The 10% would be masculine, and that the masculine protects the divine. It's the survival mechanism which uh, gets the adrenaline pumping and gets you to make a decision of whether you're going to fight whatever's in front of you, or whether you're going to flee from it, or whether you're going to pretend, whatever it is in a survival situation. That's the part of the brain that this society or this corporation, what we call society, or whatever you want to call it, has people in the left side of their brain in survival, because it's built on consumerism. And if one is in a survival state of mind, then all they want to do is consume, because that's that part of the brain is to, you're in survival, so what you're supposed to do is consume. But we live in a world of plenty, where we eat like we're in a land that doesn't have a lot. And so the body naturally is in a state that it's not supposed to be in, because of the way we've been indoctrinated in how our bodies function, what is good for our bodies, and what our bodies run off of, which is not protein, it's sugar and carbohydrates, which come from fruit and glucose.
All right. You mentioned protein. So what is protein? Is that uh a scheme to get people to consume more of it? Like what is it? Because I was gonna ask you, being that you're mostly raw and the vegans, though, people always asking vegans, where do you get your protein from? So tell me about protein.
Yeah, protein is just one of those things that they throw out there to keep people in that dense state, because a lot of the things that they sell us to have protein are very, it's like flesh, right? But no, and a lot of vegans and plant-based people say this, but it really makes the most sense in the world. If protein is only found within the flesh of an animal, then why do we not eat the flesh of lions? And why do we eat the flesh of a cow or a chicken, or these things that actually don't eat other flesh? I'm not saying that some of these like chickens are known to eat their babies. I'm not talking about that. But the main or the majority of what we eat food is plant.
They eat plants, yeah.
Right. Protein is in plants. There's just as much protein in plants as there is in meat, because the meat or the substance that we think that we're getting protein from ate plants. So then we have to ask the question, if that animal wasn't eating meat, where is it getting its protein from?
Makes sense.
Right. And
Hmm.
so if you look at the bodies and the anatomy of the body, and even how the liver works, and how the digestive system works, how the cells work, and all these different things, a lot of our body runs off of things we're not even conscious of. We don't have to think about blinking. We don't have to think about breathing. We don't have to think about our pancreas. So why is it all these other functions run on their own, except for the ones we have control over, which usually cause the most issues, right?
Yeah,
And,
100%. Now,
and so, go ahead. Sorry.
sugar, fruit and sugar. I love fruit, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I love you get carbs and sugar, right, from fruit.
Right.
What
Right.
about fats like avocado, and you have nuts and seeds? Do you consume any of those? Are those vital to the body, for the body?
I don't think they're necessarily vital. Um, I believe they're good. Again, they're good for transition, because if one is used to a dense, protein-rich uh, lifestyle of eating, you have to take an avenue of lightening the density. And nuts and seeds are a good way to do that, but it's not something you want to stay on for a long time. Fats can be useful, but as much as we eat them, they're detrimental, because they cause other issues like inflammation, uh, um, joint pain. I had a lot of joint pain when I ate too many nuts and seeds. A lot of nuts and seeds have enzymes in them that it's hard for our digestive system to break down, which is why we're supposed to really soak our seeds and legumes, or because they are seeds. Legumes or beans, seeds, uh, nuts, these are types of seeds, and so they should be sprouted. And even in the sprout, it's a plant in that it's most dense nutritionally when it's at its youngest. So the sprout actually packs more of a punch nutrition wise than it is when it's full grown. And so when I talk about the fats of the nuts and seeds, it's not, to me, you want what it sprouts, not what it offers you as a seed, should I say. You want the fruits of whatever it grows. But I'm not saying not to implement seeds and nuts for a time in transition. I still eat them occasionally, but as I clean out, the more I fast, the more I do the work, obviously the less I want to have to keep going back and doing the work. I think I posted not long ago that we always call getting the body's the body back into a natural state of being. It's called a cleanse. But
But we go
when we break
back.
then we go back, and it's like eventually people will get tired of going back, and they'll see what I'm talking about. That you'll want to operate less with what you put in, and you get more when you put in less, because that's just the nature of things. I mean, even as children, we were like that. Children don't hardly eat anything. You have to like literally tie a child down to get them to eat, but they got energy all day long. And even as a child, I remember having that energy. And the time that I started losing that energy was when my grandma and mama, well, my mom didn't do it so much, but my grandma and my great grandma, they're always the ones. You better eat that food. You can't get up from this table, but I'm full, grandma. It don't matter. It's children starving in Africa. And so you got this guilt that goes along with not finishing the food when your body tells you you don't need anymore. And once you start getting full and bondage starts to take place, you slow down, you age, you're not giving your body a break, you're not doing the correct methods of being able to clean the temple so it can regenerate. And a lot of those things are demonized within the Western medicine world, because then that breaks in on their money. If people find out that they don't need these pills, that they don't need the doctor necessarily in order to be healed, then we're going to lose a lot of money. And so, of course, they're going to bash the very thing that actually gives you the longest life. And even other dietary people out there who are influencers or whatever who bash fasting are doing a huge detriment to people, because the body is literally designed to fast in order to be able to create immunity and to regenerate. Like I said, whenever you get sick, whenever said person gets sick, the body's natural reaction is to fast. Even in nature, it'll cease your appetite, because it knows if it doesn't cease the person's appetite, it will never heal, because as long as digestion is taking place, then the natural digestive, the natural immunity that takes place within that digestive system or heal cut completely off, because you're busy digesting. And so in order to really get into the deep cellular cleansing, there has to be fasting. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Now, but you mentioned dry fasting. Is it superior? Can you cleanse drinking only water or just fruits, or like what makes dry fasting? Because you mentioned dry fasting in your posts. What makes that one like the superior choice
uh,
or the better choice?
because you're given because you're giving the body a complete break. Whenever we water fast is effective. Don't get me wrong, and it's water fasting is a vital step in the transition to dry fasting. Like I said, dry fasting is just as dangerous as overeating, right? Overeating just isn't frowned upon like fasting is. People are dying every day from
Yeah.
overeating. But dry fasting allows the body to achieve autophagy efficiently, in the sense that it can start to break things down because it doesn't have anything coming in to draw from. So it has to then draw from itself. So autophagy meaning self-eating. It then, as it tears itself, tears the body down. And when I say tear the body down or tear the temple down, what it's doing is eliminating what's not necessary within the body. So it goes after what doesn't need to be there first as its source of food. So it goes after the disease. It goes after whatever it is. And once it eliminates that, it'll start going into the muscles and things like that. But even in lifting weights, we're told that you have to break the muscle down in order for it to build the scar tissue or whatever to rebuild. Well, the body it all works the same way. And so for the body to regenerate, it must first be broken down and then rebuilt. And so what we do, and even scripture talks about the rebuilding of the temple. Well, it's not a physical temple. It's not a physical temple seen with eyes. It's a temple that we have within we dwell within, our light dwells within. And so the tearing down and rebuilding of the temple is that of tearing down what was old, tearing down what the old man and rebuilding the new man, which we're able to do when we regenerate. Just like a cut. When we cut, it don't just stay cut, it heals over with time. But the process of healing, even with cuts, quickens the process, the more efficient your body runs and the less it's having to digest. So the less you have to digest, the more the body can be more efficient, because we're looking at time, like we're looking at waste here. And so you're not only saving on money when you do this, you're saving on your energy and the output of energy. You're also saving yourself on disease. And also it's a good thing that if we do want to eat, that we know the way home is through fasting. That if we do go back, like I said, it is kind of a yo-yo-y thing where you don't want to do extremes. You don't want to like put yourself out there where you're forcing yourself to do stuff. The small incremental changes that challenge you but don't traumatize you. But you also still have to, be lenient on yourself, but also be like a disciplinary for yourself as well, because a lot of us, we give ourselves an inch, we'll take a mile. We'll be like, oh, I know I'm doing this on this fast, but maybe just one little this, and then it throws off the whole fast. So there has to be a level of allowance, but also an equal level of discipline as well. And as you work your way up the mountain, you will see that your body will start to I'll so I killed my window, sorry. The body will start to equal itself out. It will literally start to change the way that it uses the energy that it does get from what it's not used to. I'm trying to explain it. I've already explained it a couple of times in here, but literally what you're trying to do is be green, like everybody's talking about. Is what you want to do is produce less waste and more energy. In any business that you've ever been into, in anything you've done, what you're trying to do is work less, produce more. And that's what the body will do once you get it back and acclimated to its natural state.
What's a good starting point? Like, say I've water fasted for a couple days, and let's say I want to try dry fasting for a couple days. Do you recommend maybe just for like half the day, or maybe for 24 hours, and then go from there?
I would say it depends on the person, honestly, where they are mentally. Fasting is a huge mental, right? Like, especially with the fears of them telling us that we can't live past 3 days without food and water, which plenty of people have blown that theory out of the water, including myself. When I first started, because I knew myself and I had practiced water fasting sometime, I went ahead and did the 3 days because I knew mentally I was capable of it. Yeah, it pushed me, but I also had the drive and the confidence to know that I could do it, to where fear wouldn't enter my mind, because fear has a lot to do with it. Like if you're fasting and you panic, or their mind's in a bad place, it'll put your body in a bad place, and ultimately you'll result back into emotionally wanting to eat or do whatever it is that you want to do. So that's why it's important to know yourself better when you do these things. But if you haven't fasted before and you've only done water fasting, I would say only do a 1 day dry fast starting out. But if you feel comfortable and you think you got the mental capacity to do 2 days, 2 days would do it. But 3 days, I just completed a 3 day dry fast. It's like one of many I've done. And I can honestly say this time, it was way easier than any other 3 day I've ever done, because I've done it so much that it is almost like I wasn't hungry at all, other than the emotional stuff that popped up. And I was just like picking up that, oh, that's just because I'm emotional. It's not because I'm actually hungry. It's because of this, or I'm bored, or, everybody else is eating. What am I going to do? those things come up because we live in a society that doesn't promote this type of lifestyle. So you're going to automatically go against the grain even within society. But people can see results if you practice. So when people see me, I'm getting ready to turn 41 years old. I feel like I'm 18 at this point. Whereas at 30, I felt like I was going through a midlife crisis. But I feel younger now than I ever did. And I attribute my youthfulness and healing, the deeper healing, to fasting more than I do the food. I just think the food was a modality which led me to correcting a lot of the issues within my body. But until I started to fast, did I really start to see a lot of deeper results. Like I think food is a healer to a certain extent, but there's going to be a point where you want to get to the cellular healing, where you want to get to the regenerative healing and the age-defying healing. That's what everybody wants, right? Is to stay forever young. Well, that is achieved through autophagy and only through autophagy, as that's how the body operates. And so definitely practicing dry fasting, definitely being careful, consulting. I'm not a doctor, but I do know about fasting through experience. But consulting people that have experience or doctors that have experience and that do know the helpful benefits and know the truth about fasting, which there are those doctors out there who actually tell the truth about fasting and how it actually works.
Are you eliminating on a dry fast, or how
I
often?
do. Not as I do eliminate, not as often as you would eat every day, because obviously you're not like putting in to get out all the time. A lot of the waste I get is the waste that is left over from stuff that's not being digested. So example, I am on day 40, speaking of 40, of a liquid fast. I haven't eaten any solid meals for 40 days. I've only been on liquids, and I just finished a 3-day dry fast a day ago, just to get a little deeper in there, and then I returned back to liquids. So I do eliminate maybe once to twice a week, but I know that elimination is stuff that has been stuck in there for a long time. Last year I did a 123-day liquid fast,
Wow.
and I was literally still eliminating quite a bit last year around day 100, which was really eye-opening for me, that I was having such significant bowel movements without eating
Wow.
for almost 100 days. So I mean, that just
That's
goes to show
crazy.
me that everything that I've researched is true, that the average human being has, and this is at least, and that, I mean, when I say at least, I mean, this is probably the most healthiest human being there is, that's probably doing what they're supposed to be doing, but kind of cheating, that most people have at least 20 pounds of undigested
Wow.
feces within their body.
You make me want to fast right now. Just start right now. Just go
Right.
going through the
Yeah.
whole weekend. All right. Let's talk about your content creation, the RawBQ series, and all that stuff that you've been posting, and basically your just career as a private chef and stuff like that. Talk about that journey into your
Of
content
course.
creation and your private chef career.
Cool. All right. So my private chef kind of career kind of took off even when I was in the barbecue, because I still was doing a little bit there. But as I transferred or transitioned over to plant based, I then had to like recreate myself. So I just got into, I still had my food truck at the time, and I just dug in and started creating food and learning by watching other raw chefs on here. And learning the basic fundamentals or foundations of what raw food was. And once I got a good idea of what the foundation was, I could build on that. And that's basically how I built the course that I'll talk about here in a little bit. But a lot of the best way I learn is by seeing and watching. And so a lot of the people that I would watch uh, during the time that I was actually still having my barbecue business, because I knew that I was going to be, transitioning. I could feel it. And so a lot of it was self-taught. A lot of it was just trial and error, and a lot of it was observation through other people. But the more I practiced, the more I got into a new routine of what does what. You know how like eggs are a binder in normal cooking, and what binds in this since we can't use egg? And then you would say, I learned that you could use flax and water. That kind of acts as the bind. There's these different things you start learning, these little keys to the game that help you in the end game. You know what I mean? And to help you grow and to help you develop skill within, learning how to cook a totally different way, or not even cook, uncook, not even, you know, that just blows people's mind that what? You can have food and not cook it, like you don't have to do any work, how is it flavorful? But even in cooked food, people want the flavor, which comes through the freshness of whatever it is being eaten and the way it's seasoned. So really, it's just the way you have to learn how to season things, because when you cook things, honestly, things can be well seasoned cooked, but they can still be good even without being seasoned well. Well, as with raw food, when you season it, it's a little blander than what it would be to the average person, because they're inundated with all these different uh, natural flavors and cooked foods that it kind of damages our true taste buds. That when we eat the right foods that we should be eating, they typically are bland. But when you learn how to use the spices and use them to your advantage with the raw foods, it really just sets it all above. To me, it sets it above cooked food highly, just because of the way you feel after you eat it, but also the freshness and the way it tastes and the way that your body responds to it once it's, really thriving off of what it knows it should have. Because you really don't know what good feels like until you know what good feels like. At least that's how it felt for me. Like I thought I felt good until I knew what good really felt like. You know what I'm saying? Because my level of good was based upon what I was still experiencing on a standard American diet. And so when I got that freshness, when I started using supplemental meat substitutes for flesh, like jackfruit, mushrooms, different various types of mushrooms, nuts and seeds, and those types of things, that my body adjusted to not having the flesh, to having these less denser foods fairly quickly.
Wow. All right. So you mentioned the RawBQ course. Talk about that.
Yep. So the RawBQ course, RawBQ, because obviously I came from a RawBQ or a barbecue background. So when I went into plant based, I was like, how can I take what I knew before? And people, like, they love barbecue, standard American.
You cut off. You good?
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but
The RawBQ course you was talking.
yeah. And so naturally, I wanted to do something that had to do with barbecue theme, and so I started working towards some of that. And within that, I just built a skill like I did before, just trial and error, because I was a self-taught chef even before. I wasn't schooled or anything. And so literally just went through the school of hard knocks of just learning how to not cook and use my dehydrator instead of a smoker. Started writing down recipes, and over time, I collected a bunch of recipes um, and had them in a book. And when the course came along, I was in the nomadic part of my journey where I'm not used to having a job. So then I'm like, how am I going to continue this journey without, being able to fund for my journey with gas and food or whatever it is else there is. And so a buddy of mine, Wes Gomez, I always want to say Gonzalez, Wes Gomez, hit me up. Very good friend of mine, who I met through the raw vegan community, and his now wife, Olivia, who is also a raw food chef, who was one of the many influences on me during the period of me being interested in becoming raw. And last year, I ran out of the money that I told you about prior, that the retirement money, and some of the other money that I had saved up, and we decided to join forces. He's a videographer, very talented videographer. If you go on my Instagram, you'll see some of the videos and skits that we put out during the time we were doing the RawBQ course.
The RawBQ
And
salesman.
yeah, the barbecue salesman. And he's just a genius, man, with the level of creativity he could create in skits and video production. And we kind of tied our geniuses together and my love for raw food and food in general, and to try to create intentionally something that would help bring value to people, but also would bring success to people who are wanting to transition. Knowing that people were going to come along more and more as this information came out, I knew that people would want something that was simple, easy to understand, and very doable within a kitchen and a busy life. And so when we put this course together, video course together, and it's also an ebook, we had in mind that this is for the person that could be skilled, but it's mostly for the person who is new to the game. And it basically sets a foundation and share tools and information that help a person wanting to pursue a raw food lifestyle to have the proper foundation to build on. That once they take the course, that they'll be able to create many more things just off of the simple things they were able to create within the foundational tools or the foundational dishes of simple ones that look hard, really, really, really simple. I thought that raw food dating when I first started doing it, because, it's like, how do I make uncooked food taste well? And also, how do I achieve that certain mouthfeel and texture that people are looking for coming out of one type of diet into a different type of lifestyle? And so basically try to use what we were used to before, but in a healthier version where it's not also helping it to thrive and nourish the body to get back to a state of wellness. And so like my pizza, and pizza that normally clogs you up will literally make you to the bathroom. Like, it'll be good, it'll taste good, but it'll also help clean all that stuff that needs to come out. And so it's really fun to show people how to do this in the form of a course, because they can, make and prepare food with me while I'm giving them information about why certain things are done, and how certain things make certain foods easier to prepare as well. And so I just think it adds great value to the up and coming new transition to a person that is transitioning to raw plant-based lifestyle.
Yeah, that raw pizza looks so good. Man.
Man, so good. It is really
I
good.
bet it is. So what was the hardest thing about this journey being raw plant based?
What was the question again?
The hardest thing about this journey, the most challenging about the journey, the raw plant based journey?
The most challenging thing was the reactions I got within the people closest from me, and especially in society, being that you're doing something completely different than the norm. Anytime we're doing something different other than what the rest of society is doing, it's deemed like taboo, or frowned upon. So I would say the hardest part would be just having support in the choice that I made, and being the only person doing it, and being surrounded by people who weren't, but still holding the integrity I had for how I wanted to continue to live and wanted to be healthy, that I wouldn't let my outside influences or the hardships that come along with being different keep me from achieving that. So that was really the hardest amongst even the transition of learning how to prepare food. That was by far the hardest.
What's your favorite dish that you make right now?
The pizza,
The
and
pizza?
I have to say the pizza and the empanadas. The empanadas, man, the
Oh
empanadas
man.
are so good, dude.
You
I'm gonna
have
do a
that
lot more.
do you have that in your ebook? The
Yeah,
empanada
yeah, it's in the
recipe?
ebook.
Alright.
Yeah, Yeah,
I
the
got I
ebook is actually exactly the same as the course recipe wise. It's just not the videos, but the course actually comes with the ebook free, so it's actually a better value to buy the course because you get the ebook
got
anyway, and you'll have the course forever. Like you can go to the course whenever you want. Like it's pre-recorded, so you can you know work at your own pace. You can put it away and come back to it, or whatever it is. Whatever it is that's yours. So once you have it,
yeah.
it's always there.
Cool, cool. So, what advice do you have for anyone who wants to transition into that raw lifestyle?
Take it easy. Be easy on yourself. I think we a lot of times we get anxious to get to the finish line. That it does take time to show yourself some grace and mercy, because there will be times that we do fall back or we become disappointed, that we don't allow that to deter us from our path, because there will be those times, and each time that you overcome that, you'll get stronger and stronger and gain confidence. But really, it's just to open the mind up to learning and research. Whenever you're presented with new information, research is vital in knowing how to master something on your own, which is another reason why I put the course out, is that um, I wanted to make it easier for people to transition. And a lot of times people have more trouble with preparing the food, whereas I really didn't have that much trouble because I come from a background of food preparation, and the influences around me is really what was the hardest. And so for people, really, I feel like the preparation of food is what intimidates them the most. And so I would be inclined to say invest in yourself, and or watch videos on YouTube if you don't have the money to spend on a course or something like that, because there's free resources. I have free resources out there. I have a YouTube channel. I have free recipes within my highlights in um, my IG page. There's resources that you can look at to be a benchmark for one to learn how to do these things, or invest in yourself. Find somebody like myself or somebody that has been doing it for a while, that has a good knowledge of why and what's going on with and why we're eating this way. And the preparation methods are easy, as far as to the one that is trying to learn this way of making food, that stick with the simple stuff before you get to the complicated stuff. And you'll find that when you learn the simple stuff, the complicated stuff just comes along with continuing to learn to be creative through watching other people.
Well said. I love it. I'm definitely gonna take a lot that I learned today and put it to use. You know that dry fasting sounds intimidating, but I think I
Mm-hmm.
want to try it.
Yeah,
You know, I was
yeah,
plant based for 5 years, fell off the wagon a bit, so that's gonna make that's gonna motivate me to just get back on that.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
where can the people find you? They want to get in contact with you. They want to just see your videos, your recipes, etc.
You can find me on Instagram, Plant Master P. It's PLANT, plant underscore master underscore P33. Also, my YouTube handle is the exact same. So you can find me under the exact same handle on YouTube, where I have a lot of free, all of my recipes on YouTube are free. And right now, those are the only two platforms that I have as far as being able to reach me. If one does decide to buy the course, there is a community uh, built within the course where people can ask me questions if they have any, and I can answer them through email through the course. Because once you get the course, you become part of that community, and so you can ask questions there. But other than that, it's just basically IG and YouTube.
Dope, dope, man. Perry, man, this was fun. I enjoyed
Yeah,
this.
it's a lot of fun. A lot of
And
fun.
enlightening, very enlightening for sure. I really appreciate your time. Until next time, brother. Let's do a part two.
Let's do it. Absolutely. Maybe one day it'll be in person and I'll make you a pizza.
Oh
How
hell
about
yeah! You know what, man?
that?
I want to go to that. You're in Arizona. That's where I want to go.
Right.
I
Come to
actually,
Sedona.
I actually talked about moving out there too. So we're gonna get together. We're gonna link up for sure.
Sounds good. I believe it. I can't wait. I'm definitely looking forward to that day.
Hell yeah! Peace, brother.
All right, brother. Much
Later.
love.